third graders, welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Friday, February 26th. How are you? How was your night last night? Did you have an okay night? Let's check in with our zones. How are you feeling today? What's that brain doing and your body doing and your emotions? Oh, there's Mr. Kevin. He's looking very sad in the blue zone. Oh, sorry, Mr. Kevin.
I have a headache today.
Oh, no, that's no good.
Yeah. I'm doing okay
I'm also
otherwise.
kind of in the blue zone today, Mr. Kevin.
Yeah?
But I'm also in the green zone, so we'll call that turquoise.
Turquoise, I like
Sure,
it.
why not? All right, friends, what zone are you in today? Thank you for sharing. Don't forget to ask someone around you how they're feeling today, too. Let's get going with our learning today. Rafa, are you ready for Fact Fun Friday? I'm ready. Here we go, friends. What is the fact for this? 6 times 5 equals... If you said 30, you are correct. 30. Oh, it didn't switch. Okay, next one. If 6 times 5 is 30, then what's 6 times 10? 60. 30 plus 30 is 60. Ooh, we know 6 times 5 and we know 6 times 10. So what's 6 times 15? What's 30 plus 60? 90. Because we knew 6 times 10 was 60, and 6 times 5 was 30. And you add those together and you get 90 because 15 is made of 10 and 5. Fantastic. Ooh, 6 times 50. Well, if we know 6 times 10 is 60, we just need 5 of those. Or we could do 6 times 5 is 30. So 6 times 5 tens is 30 tens, which is what? 300. Oh, awesome. Okay, if 6 times 50 is 300, then what's 6 times 500?
Ooh, this is a big number.
This is a big number. Okay, so if 6 50s is 300, or 6 times 5 is 30, and we need 10 30s, which is 300. So 6 times 5 is 30, and we need 30 hundreds. 3000 is also known as 3,000. Woo! I love patterns in math. Today we are learning to solve 2-step problems involving 2 different operations. So we're gonna have to do an operation and then do another operation to find the total. So this is when we really get to use that. What's happening? And figure out the situation, and then figure out what am I trying to figure out, and then what do I already know, and what am I gonna find to solve the problem? So we're gonna really use that strategy today. But before we begin, let's do a warm-up problem. Now, if you don't have counters to make an array, then just draw dots for an array. I have my little dot counters here. So it says 12 divided by 3. Go ahead, make an array that shows that problem. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. Begin.
Did you want me to show your...
Yep, that's fine.
Cool.
Okay, friends, what do you notice about my array? I had 12, and what did I do? I put it into 3 groups. How many did I have in each group? I had 4 in each group. But what would happen if I did it differently? What if I decided to take my 12 and put it into groups of 3? then I would find that I have how many groups? 4. Either way is correct. Awesome job. Go ahead and reset your board. Now, let's take a look at our first problem. In this first read, I don't want anything in your hands. I want you focusing on just figuring out what's happening. What's the story? Sam has a box with 12 cans of paint. Okay? There are 3 other cans of paint on a table. He puts all the paint cans together on the table in rows of 5. How many rows of paint cans does Sam make? What's happening? Right, we have someone with some paint cans. Some are on a table and some are in a box, and they put them all together. And then they line them up in rows. Okay, what's the question we're trying to answer? Let's read again and find out. Sam has a box with 12 cans of paint. There are 3 other cans of paint on a table. He puts all the paint cans together on the table in rows of 5. How many rows of paint cans does Sam make? What's our question? Right, we're trying to figure out exactly how many rows does Sam make. Okay, let's go through and find the information we can use. And in the back of your head, remember, I said it's 2-step problem. So we're looking to figure out what 2 steps you might have to do. All right, let's read and find the important information we can use. Sam has a box with 12 cans of paint. There are 3 other cans of paint on a table. He puts all the paint cans on the table together in rows of 5. How many rows of paint cans does Sam make? What's our important information here? Right, the box has 12 cans of paint, and there's 3 other cans of paint, and they're put into rows of 5. Go ahead, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to try to solve this one all on your own. Then we're going to look at some options for solving it. Go ahead, begin now. Okay, friends. So, Mr. Kevin, can we see my whiteboard? Okay. We have to do 2 steps here. We can't just put 12 and 5 together or put 3 and 5. There's 2 steps we need to figure out. So, what happens in this story? Okay, there's a box with 12 cans of paint, and there's a table with 3 cans of paint. And they're put together. So what do? Yeah, we do 12 plus 3 equals 15. So we know that there's 15 cans of paint now. So what's our next step? What did Sam do? Yeah, Sam took those 15 cans of paint and put them into rows of 5. 15 into rows of 5 equals something. And how many rows did he get? 3 rows. There are 3 rows of paint. Is that the answer you got? Let's look at some ways you could have solved it. This is one way. It's not the only way. Mr. Kevin, can we get the full slide, please? So you can use a drawing to show a 2-step word problem. Take a look at this drawing. What do you see? Rafa, I see that too. I noticed that right here they circled the 3 and the 12. And then as they were doing it, they made it into rows of 5. So they must have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And they found out there's 15 cans that are in rows of 5. And there's 5 cans in each row, and there's 3 rows. So there's a picture that could help you figure out the answer. How many rows are there? 3. You can also use words and numbers to model a 2-step problem. This is kind of what I did. I did 12 plus 3 equals 15 cans in all, and then I took the 15 cans and I divided it into each row, and I found 3 rows. How did we find the total number of cans of paint that Sam had? What did we do to find the total number? Yeah, we added. So we're going to write an equation, and I want you to practice writing this equation with me, letting C be the total number of cans. So we had 3 plus 12 equals C. C is the total number of cans they have. And then how did Sam arrange the paint cans? Yeah, into rows of 5. It says, how can you find the number of rows? Let R equal the number of rows. Write an equation to find R that includes C and R. Mr. Kevin, can we look back at my whiteboard really quick? So if this number is going to be C, and this number here is going to be R for how many rows? Oh, look, 15. This would also be C. So what would our equation be? C, the total number of cans, divided by 5 equals the total number of rows. Okay, we can go back to full PowerPoint, Mr. Kevin. How can you find the value of C, which we did? We added 3 plus 12 equals C. And what is the value of C? What do we decide? 15. Write an equation from problem 3 using the value of C. So it's not going to be C anymore. We know what it is. What is C? 15 equals C. So we're going to say, instead of C, we're going to write 15 divided by 5 equals R. So how many rows? What is 15 divided by 5? 15 divided by 5, we figured out in our array, is 3. So there's 3 rows. R here is going to equal 3. Oh. How can we use multiplication to check that our answer is correct? What's 3 groups of 5? 5, 10, 15, right? 3 times 5 is 15. We have it correct. Nice job, friends. Let's do another problem together. We'll read and then we'll work on it together on the whiteboard. DeMarco has Ooh, my mouth was going too fast, friends. DeMarco has 4 $5 bills. That's really hard to say, 4 $5 bills. Then his grandfather gives him 1 $10 bill. How much money does DeMarco have now? Show your work. What's going on here? Yeah, this person has money in bills and then their grandfather gives them more. Okay, let's read again and find the question. DeMarco has 4 $5 bills. Then his grandfather gives him one $10 bill. How much money does DeMarco have now? Show your work. What's the question we're trying to solve here? Yeah, how much money does he have now? Okay, let's read and find the information we know. DeMarco has 4 $5 bills. Okay. Then his grandfather gives him one $10 bill. What's the information we have? 4 $5 bills and one $10 bill. How much money does DeMarco have now? Show your work. Mr. Kevin, before I keep going, can you tell me how much time we have?
Yes, 16.
Perfect, thank you. So, what do we know? Go ahead and do my whiteboard, Mr. Kevin. We know a few things. We know that DeMarco has 4 $5 bills. Okay? And we know that DeMarco's grandfather gives him a $10 bill. Well, I need to know how much money DeMarco starts with, don't I? If there's 4 $5 bills. So what could that equation be? 4 groups of $5 bills is going to equal his total amount of money. Oh. And then we take the total amount of money that DeMarco had and we add it to the $10 his grandpa gives him, and that's going to equal his total. So now we've got to figure out the M before we can figure out the T. So what do we do? What is 4 groups of 5? Well, it's bills, so I'm going to just draw some bills. And then I'm going to skip count. 5, 10, 15, $20. $20 is M. So now here, I can put the $20. $20 plus $10 equals his total amount. What is $20 plus $10? $30 is the total amount of money DeMarco has now. DeMarco has $30. Is that what you got? Do you see how we take what we know and we think about, what am I trying to figure out? What parts do I know and what parts don't I know? And we can use letters, or if the letters are confusing to you, you can just use a question mark to figure out the new stuff, right? Cool. Okay.
Looks like DeMarco can buy us lunch.
I think that'd be great if DeMarco bought us lunch. That would be lovely. Okay, friends, let's take a look at this last problem. And I'm gonna see if you can solve it on your own. We're gonna do our 3-read, and then I'm gonna give you a minute to solve, and then we'll see where we are. Vegetable plants are sold in packs of 4. A container holds 2 packs of plants. There are 10 containers on one shelf. How many plants are on the shelf? Show your work. What's happening here? Yeah, we've got vegetables in packs, and we've got packs on a shelf. Okay, let's read again and figure out what our question is. Vegetable plants are sold in packs of 4. A container holds 2 packs of plants. There are 10 containers on one shelf. How many plants are on the shelf? What's our question? How many plants are on the shelf? Okay, let's find our information. Vegetable plants are sold in packs of 4. So each pack is gonna have 4 plants. A container holds 2 packs of plants. So a container holds 2 packs of plants. And we know there are 10 containers. I'm gonna give you 1 minute. Go ahead and solve. Okay, friends, take a look at my whiteboard. Let me explain my thinking. This represents one pack. A pack has 4 plants. And then it said, a container holds 2 packs. So I need to figure out how many plants are in the container first. And I know that there's 2 packs. So a pack times 2 equals the container. Well, if one pack is 4, that's going to be 4 and 4, or 4 times 2, which equals 8. So one container holds 8 plants. Then I took container times 10. There's 10 of them on a shelf. There's 8 plants in 8 containers, which have 8 plants, times 10, which is equal to how many plants there are on a shelf. So there are 80 plants on the shelf. Is that what you got? Did you get 80 plants on the shelf? Awesome job. Let's take a look at our assignment today. Today you're going to work more with these 2-step problems. You're going to do page 395 and 396 in your math workbook. They may take you a little bit longer because there's more than one step, but really think about what you know and write what you know to figure out what you don't know. Today we learned to solve 2-step problems involving 2 different operations. We created models, we wrote equations that matched each part of the situation, we chose the best strategy to use to solve the equations, and we found a solution. And we were writing answer statements. Awesome job. Mr. Kevin, can you tell them how to contact us here at the TV Classroom?
Well, certainly. They can email us at tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us or send us something in the mail. We'd love that. TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Awesome, thank you so much. Friends, now is time for your break. You need to gather your materials for your ELA time with Miss Oslin and then be back ready to learn when she comes back on the screen. I hope you get your wiggles out during your break, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Rules. 1. You have 10 seconds to pick your crewmate. 2. A new timer will appear with an exercise for the crewmate you picked. 3. You will get 10 points for each correct crewmate and exercise you choose. 4. If you pick the imposter, you will lose all your points. 5. See how many points you can get. Good luck.
Hi, third graders. Welcome back from your break. Excellent job being so responsible and gathering your materials and being ready to learn. Let's remind ourselves of our 3 personal standards. Today and every day when we come together, we agree to show respect, make good decisions, and solve problems. You'll remember we have been learning all about our author, Patricia Polacco. I want you to take a moment and think about everything that we've learned so far about this author and illustrator. Take some think time because there's quite a bit that we've learned. Turn and tell your learning buddy everything that you remember that we've learned about Patricia Polacco. Rafa, we have learned that Patricia Polacco writes about her real life experiences, both the happy and the not happy or the uncomfortable feelings. She uses her writing to honor and pay homage to different cultures. We learned about that when we read Just Plain Fancy. Her illustrations are a big part of her stories. We learned that they are kind of like another character in her story. We learned that she often writes from the perspective of a child who has a special relationship with an adult. We have learned so much about Patricia Polacco and how we can use some of her skills and talents as writers ourselves. Today we're learning Patricia Polacco writes about special people she cares about deeply. We're going to read a story today called Chicken Sunday, and she writes about a character named Miss Eula, who is a real person who was in her life. When Patricia Polacco was growing up, she had a best friend named Stuart. And when her grandmother died, you'll remember we learned about her babushka who had died. Stuart's grandmother became like her second grandmother, and that's Miss Eula, who we're going to read about today. We're going to think about the times when we did something special for someone, or when someone did something special for us, because we're going to learn about what Patricia and Stuart did for Miss Eula. Now, again, think about people who are important in your life, who you care deeply about, what you've done for them, or what they've done for you, and how you can use that as inspiration for your writing. Here we go. Chicken Sunday by Patricia Polacco. Now, I want to point out here on this page, you can kind of see the dedication there on the right-hand side. It says, to Stuart Grinwell, Washington, with love. So Patricia Polacco actually dedicated this book to her best friend when she was a child, Stuart. Stuart and Winston were my neighbors. They were my brothers by a solemn ceremony we had performed in their backyard one summer. They weren't the same religion as I was. They were Baptists. Their grandma, Eula May Walker, was my grandma now. My babushka had died 2 summers before. Sometimes my mother let me go to church on Sunday with them. How we loved to hear Miss Eula sing. She had a voice like slow thunder and sweet rain. We'd walk to church and back. She'd take my hand as we crossed College Avenue. Even though you've been churching up like decent folk ought to, she'd say, I don't want you to step in front of one of those too fast cars. You'll be as flat as a hen's tongue. She squeezed my hand. When we passed Mr. Kudinsky's hat shop, Miss Eula would always stop and look in the window at the wonderful hats. Then she'd sigh, and we'd walk on. Now, right there, we are seeing an example of Patricia Polacco's writing where she mentions her grandma, her babushka, who had died. Remember, she includes uncomfortable and comfortable stories from her childhood. We called those Sundays Chicken Sundays because Miss Eula almost always fried chicken for dinner. There'd be collard greens with bacon, a big pot of Hoppin' John, corn on the cob, and fried spoon bread. One Sunday at the table, we watched her paper fan flutter back and forth, pulling moist chicken fried air along with it. She took a deep breath. Her skin glowed as she smiled. Then she told us something we already knew. That Easter bonnet in Mr. Kadinsky's window is the most beautiful I ever did see, she said thoughtfully. The three of us exchanged looks. We wanted to get her that hat more than anything in the world. Why do you think they wanted to get her the hat? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Rafa, I think they wanted to get her the hat because she's so very special to them and she does a lot for them, like cooking their dinner on Sundays, and it would be a nice thing that they could do for her. I'm also noticing in the background of the picture on this page, we talked about Patricia Polacco's illustrations, how, look at the photographs in the back on the table behind Miss Eula. Do you notice that detail?
They're real.
They're real, just like we've seen Patricia Polacco do. Those are real photographs, and I bet one of them, at least, is of our character Stuart and Winston. What a fun detail Patricia includes. Stuart reached into the hole in the trunk of our wish tree in the backyard. He pulled out a rusty Band-Aid tin. The three of us held our breath as we counted the money inside that we had been saving for weeks. If we are going to get that hat for Miss Eula in time for Easter, we are going to need a lot more than this, I announced. Maybe we should ask Mr. Kadinsky if we could sweep up his shop or something to earn the rest of the money, Stuart said. I don't know, Winnie said fearfully. He's such a strange old man. He never smiles at anyone. He always looks so mean. We all agreed that it was worth a try anyway. The next day, we took a shortcut down the alley in back of the hat shop. Bigger boys were there. They were yelling. Eggs flew past us and pelted Mr. Kadinsky's back door. Just as the boys ran away, the door flew open. Mr. Kadinsky glared straight at us. You there, he yelled. Why do you kids do things like this? It wasn't us, Stuart tried to say, but Mr. Kadinsky wouldn't listen to us. All I want to do is live my life in peace. I'm calling your grandmother, he shouted as he wagged his finger in Stuart's face. Miss Eula was waiting in her living room for us. Miss Eula, we didn't throw those eggs, I sobbed. Some big boys did, Stuart sputtered. What were you doing at the back of his shop in the first place? She asked. We knew that we couldn't tell her the truth, so we just stood there and cried. She looked at us for a long while. Baby dears, I want to believe you. Heaven knows that I brought you children up to always tell the truth. If you say you didn't do it, then I believe you. It is too bad, though, she went on to say. That poor man has suffered so much in his life. He deserves more than eggs thrown at him. You know, he thinks you threw the eggs. You'll have to show him that you are good people. You'll have to change his mind somehow. In my kitchen the next day, we thought and thought. How can we win him over when he thinks we threw those eggs? Stuart asked. He doesn't even like us, Winston chirped. Eggs, I said quietly. Eggs? Stuart asked. Eggs, I screamed. I went to the kitchen drawer and took out a lump of beeswax, a candle, a small funnel with a wooden handle, and some packets of yellow, red, and black dye. My mom helped me show the boys how to decorate eggs the way my bubby had taught us, the way they do it in the old country. We made designs on the eggshells with hot wax, then dyed them, and finally melted the wax patterns off. We put the eggs in a basket, and even though we were afraid, marched into Mr. Kadinsky's shop and put them on the counter. He raised his eyebrows and glowered at us. Then his eyes dropped to the basket. Spasiba, he said softly. That means thank you in Russian. Pysanky eggs, he said as he looked closely. I haven't seen these since I left my homeland. We didn't throw those eggs at your door, Mr. Kadinsky, we told him. He looked at us for a minute. Well, then you have great courage to be there. Chutzpah. You have chutzpah. Then his eyes glistened and his mouth curled into a warm smile. Come have some tea with me. We spent the whole afternoon talking together, having poppy seed cake and strong tea. He told us about his life. We told him about ours. When we finally got the courage to ask about doing odd jobs to earn some extra money, he apologized and told us that there was no work. We didn't tell him what we wanted the money for. It didn't seem the right thing to do. Our hearts sank. I tell you this, he said thoughtfully, these eggs are as beautiful as my hats. Stuart, Winnie, and I looked at each other. It is almost Easter, he went on to say. I'm sure that people would love these eggs. Set up a table and sell them right there in my shop. For the next few days, we worked very hard. We made almost a dozen Pysanky eggs. When people came in, they picked them up and said things like beautiful, splendid, intricate, glorious. We sold them all in one single day. That afternoon, when all the eggs were gone, we counted our money. We had more than enough for the hat. Just as we were about to tell Mr. Kadinsky that we wanted to buy the hat, he came out from the back room holding a beautiful hat box, gift wrapped. Keep your money, children, he said softly. I have seen Miss Eula admire this. It is for her, isn't it? Tell her that I know you are very good children. Such good children. When Easter Sunday arrived, we thought our hearts would burst when we watched Miss Eula open the hat box. She held us close as big tears rolled down her cheeks. Now, let's take a moment and think about how Patricia Polacco is showing us and telling us how important and precious Miss Eula May is to her. Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Rafa, these characters, Stuart, Winston, and Patricia, worked so hard to earn money to get that hat for Miss Eula. She must be really special to them. I'm also looking at the illustrations, and they're hugging each other, and they all have their eyes closed, and they're smiling. They must just be so happy to be there with her, and she seems happy to be there with them. Our hearts sang along with the choir that Sunday. She looked so beautiful in that hat. When it was time for her solo, we knew that she was singing for us. Her voice was like slow thunder and sweet rain. Later that day, as Miss Eula sat at the head of the table, she said, "Oh, baby dears, I can die happy now. And after I'm dead, on Chicken Sundays, I want you to boil up some chicken, bones, gravy, and all, and pour it over my grave, so late at night when I'm hungry, I can reach out and have me some." Then she rolled her head back and laughed from a deep, holy place inside. Winston, Stuart, and I are grown up now. Our old neighborhood has changed some, yet it's still familiar too. The freeway rumbles over the spot where Mr. Kadinsky's shop once stood. I think of him often and his glorious hats. We lost Miss Eula some time back, but every year we take some chicken soup up to Mountain View Cemetery and do just as she asked. Sometimes when we are especially quiet inside, we can hear singing, a voice that sounds like slow thunder and sweet rain. What a special story about someone who's really special and dear to Patricia Polacco. Now, as writers, you and I are gonna try to model what Patricia Polacco did. as we complete page 56 in your ELA packet called Marvelous Memories. I'm going to give you a moment to get this document out. If you don't have it, you can just use your writing notebook. You're going to make sure you have your name and the date on the top. Go ahead. Okay, as you're finishing up, I'm just gonna do some think aloud, which means I'm gonna talk about what I'm thinking about in my mind. So I'm thinking about all of the special people in my life who have done something for me or who I've done something for. And are you ready for this? Name of special person. I'm thinking about Mr. Kevin and Mrs. Wally because both of them have done things for me that have been really special. Now, they're not huge things like buying me expensive things, but Mr. Kevin gave me a new mask that he thought I would like. And Mrs. Wally made me cinnamon rolls. And why it was done? Because they care about me.
True.
True statement, right, Mr. Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
When you care about someone, you do things for them to help take care of them, or even just like the mask is to help take care of me, or help me take care of myself and keep me safe and other people safe. And the cinnamon rolls were just because Mrs. Wally is so nice. I loved it. Now I want you to take some think time and think about who is a special person in your life. What have they done for you, or what have you done for them? And why was that done? Take some think time. Now, go ahead and jot down who your special person is, what they did or what you did, and why they did it. Now, I wrote special people, Max and Charlie, those are my kids. What did they do? They made me Valentine's Day cards a couple weeks ago because they love me. Now, writers, your job is to keep in mind that Patricia Polacco writes about special people she cares about deeply. And you are going to complete your Marvelous Memories document, thinking of as many people as you can who are special to you. And you're going to use those as inspiration for your writing when you complete page 57, which says family member interview questions. It does not have to be a family member. It can be anyone around you who's special to you that you can ask about. You can ask about how you're related or how you know each other. Do they remember something special that you did for them? What was it? How did it make them feel? Why was it important to them? Who are some other special people in your family that you remember? And what special things have they done? And that can be your inspiration for your independent writing today. Don't forget, you're also going to do your independent reading. And when you're doing that, notice how your author wrote about special people about whom they feel deeply. And of course, we would love for you to send us your writing, your interview of your friend or family member. Mr. Kevin, how can our third graders send us their interview?
Oh, we'd love to read what you have to say, and we will read it on air. How would you like that?
That would be awesome.
You can send it via email to tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us, or you can put it in the mail. TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Of course, third graders, you're going to continue adding to your reading log so that your teacher knows what you're reading and the goals that you are making. Now is time for our affirmation. And the affirmation that we're going to remind ourselves of today is, I can show gratitude. Gratitude is when we're thankful for the people and things around us. So thinking about people that we feel deeply about, make sure you show them some gratitude today. So say this out loud with me. I can show gratitude. Excellent job today, third graders. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you back here next time in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.